Welcome to the Stressless Eating Podcast, where we help diet-obsessed and food-crazed women break themselves out of the food and body prison, end the dieting madness, and take control of their health for good. I'm your host, Leanne Ellington, and this podcast is about answering one question. How can you heal your relationship with food and your body and take a practical approach to this whole self-love journey, but without all that restriction, obsession, and shame, and without needing years of therapy to do so? If you want to know the answer, you're in the right place. All this information is 100% free, so please subscribe to and review our podcast. Hey, so today I'm excited to bring you a special episode where you're going to get to hear from one of my amazing stressless eating clients. Now, I've told you before that I am not here to persuade you or convince you or try to sell you on the fact that the diet mentality is the real problem here, and that the journey that I believe all women need to go on to create their freedom only comes when you take the time to heal your relationship with food and your body and yourself. So instead, I'm just going to let you hear it from women who have been where you are and have been locked inside their own food and body and shame prisons, and they've come out on the other side victorious. I'll let you hear it from them and see it through their eyes. And remember, this is a pretty big deal for these gals to share their journey because remember, this topic tends to carry around a lot of weight and a lot of shame. And in these case study interviews, they do not hold back. Like, they share the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. I'm talking their fears, their struggles, their skepticism, all of it. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode.
Awesome. So I'm so excited, ladies. We are here with just such an amazing woman. And she is brave enough to just share her testimony and what she has experienced. You know, really, like it says in the title, like how a full-time working mom of 2 young kids, she ditched her skepticism that anything would ever work for her. She healed her sugar addiction and she found freedom and self-love. And so this is my client, Jenna. She's amazing. She has just, agreed. I asked her to come on and just kind of share her story and what she experienced, coming really from the depths of darkness of this diet mentality, and really to just kind of give you ladies that are stuck in that cycle an inside peek about, what life is like on the other side, what, her challenges were, her limiting beliefs, all of that. So first of all, hello, Jenna.
Good morning.
Yay,
Hello.
we're so excited. Thank you so much for being here. So, we'll go ahead and just dive right in. Like, just for anybody who's watching right now, like, would you just kind of share with us, like, where were you before we met? Like, what was your life like? What was your relationship with food like? What was your relationship with your body like? You were in, for lack of a better way of saying it, a really dark place when we met. Could you just kind of share with us what was going on in your world?
Yeah. Before I met you, it was really dark. And I was pretty sure that I was never going to improve much. Like I had an injury and I was just sure that that was just going to be where I was physically forever. And, after one diet after another, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to keep doing the cycle thing and just keep making my number on the scale go up and up and up. And then that was just going to be what it was until I died. That's where I was. I was in a pretty low spot. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I was just pretty, looking back, and I was enemy to myself and to everyone else around me too at the same time.
What was your relationship with food like? What was your relationship with your body like?
Food was something to be feared. Food was something to be shamed and to be controlled and to be, all of the words that we as Americans have learned about food. It's something that's ugly. It's something that's dirty. And then my body, oh my gosh, I didn't know who my body was. I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know. I thought I was doing the things I should do. But I honestly, I would rather just ignore everything that was going on in my body. Just move on and just cover up all of the symptoms and just push through. And I was damaging myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what
Mhm.
was your relationship with sugar like?
Sugar was like my mistress, it was the thing that I had hidden in my desk drawer, the thing that I would turn to at any time of stress or overwhelming or excitement or whatever it was controlling me 100%.
For sure. And I remember like you
Mhm.
identified as like a sugar addict when we first met.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, how do I quit the white stuff, man? That
Yeah.
stuff is like the thing I want all of the time.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people that are watching this right now can relate. Like, when we identify as an addict, I know it was like this for me, like it is our best kept secret. Like if anybody ever knew how out of control we feel when we're comforting and numbing and really just using it as a coping mechanism, like it's like, we present ourselves outwardly as strong and powerful and all these things. And it is like you said, it's a mistress. Like it really is this deeply, protected secret for so many of us. Um,
Yep.
and how were you feeling? I mean, you are a teacher, you had two young kids, like you're a wife, like how were you showing up? Like how was this spilling over into your life? Just like feeling that disconnected from yourself. Well, first of all, actually, like where was your emotional home? Like where were you emotionally, mentally every single day, like in terms of how you were talking to yourself, how you were seeing yourself, your life?
I was really depressed, honestly, and there was not a whole lot of vitality to
Mm,
me. Um, I get excited about little projects for a little while, and then it just seemed like the same cycle over and over again. I was not a very don't think I was a very good mom or wife at that point. Like, but yeah, and I wasn't compassionate towards myself or anyone else either.
mm,
So yeah, I was probably a bit of a monster, I imagine.
And so that was an added source of shame for you too, of just like, I'm
Yeah.
not showing up how I want to show up, who I want to be.
Yeah, I would be so tired and so just overwhelmed that I just couldn't handle the relationships around me as well as I should have. And I look back and I've gone so far from that, but uh yeah, yeah, it was in a lot of ways it was very I imagine uh, my husband has told me, he's like, I was on eggshells. I was on eggshells with you. And so it was a big shamey area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then food was just that one thing that was always there for you.
Oh yeah. Food was always there. Netflix was always there. All the things are always there. That are not the things that make life good.
Yeah. So is that
So
cycle of just hiding, numbing,
mhm,
comforting? Yeah.
yep, coping.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so, how has your life changed as a result of enrolling in stressless eating? Like what's life like now? What's different? What's transformed?
Everything. Like I'm not exaggerating. I I have vitality in me. I have um, all of my relationships have improved with my husband, with my children, with my peers, with my students, with everyone. And also the relationship with my own self has changed 100%. And it's phenomenal to even be asked that question, because I'm like, there's not one thing this program hasn't touched.
Mm,
Even just my organizational skills and just all of that. It's just touched everything.
amazing. Amazing. And what is your relationship like with food now?
Um, it's still there. Like there's still sometimes when I fall into a little bit of like a um, that feeling you get when you're just kind of going through the motions sometimes. But man, it's definitely not where it used to be. Food is my friend. Food is my nutrition. Food is my medicine. Food is my and sometimes my comfort.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Like
Yeah.
food is something I get excited about now too.
Yeah, Absolutely. And what, like, obviously, like, you felt really like food controlled you more than you controlled it. You use the word fear, use the word addiction. Like,
Mhm.
where is that now? And how do you feel on like a freedom side of things in terms of like its role or power in your life?
Oh, 100%. Like I have all the freedom. Like we're going into the holidays. I'm excited to have the good stuff, and I know I'm not going to like, kill myself over it. I'm not going to. I mean, it just there's just so much. The word I keep going back to is just freedom. Like I have um my power and my freedom always in my back pocket, and it's just it's just so lovely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and you brought up the holidays. Like, this is such a trigger for so many women. And like, when you
Mhm.
have the freedom, you get to bring it with you everywhere. But that includes, like, I don't want anybody to be like, oh, I can't have certain things and I can't ever have sugar because I'm an addict. Like, part of it
Mhm.
is just like knowing where, like, again, like you said, just having the power and the peace and the freedom in your back pocket. And you could take it with you everywhere you go, whether that's on a trip, whether that's to a
Mhm.
holiday, like but that can't be cultivated from a diet.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's one diet I've ever tried that's like, um, hey, if you want this, have that. Or if you, I don't know, it's just not a diet. Like it's so different. Like a diet, so restricting and so shaming. You feel like this constant heaviness because your cravings go through the roof. And I always end up having a binge just even 3 days into a diet, and I thought I was
1000%.
the worst person in the planet because I could not, because I couldn't do it because all the people in the pictures did
Yeah,
it. They did it for 90
absolutely.
days. How do you do that for 90
Yeah.
days? And so it's
Yeah.
just not a diet, and yeah, it just seems funny to even have it in the same question. It's like, well, it's not they're
Yeah.
not even on the
A
same
whole
planet.
new way of thinking. Yeah. And
No,
that's
no,
what
no.
I didn't get it either. Cause like, obviously you're like, the world's throwing more diets at us. Like, diet culture is very prevalent. It's like, oh, if this one didn't work, it's like, try the next one and trying to find the perfect diet. And it's like, no, we're actually in the wrong paradigm. The paradigm is like, let's learn a new language around freedom and peace of mind and acceptance and non-judgment, but also like connecting with our bodies and taking our power back first and foremost, so that we have the power, so that we just get to show up as that version of ourselves, and obviously have a new framework around food so that you're making different choices. But it's not about the food. It's just a different lens that you're seeing yourself through. um
Mhm.
yeah. And so for you, what was the lens that you were seeing it through before, like in terms of like judgment, restriction, good, bad, on, off, like black, white, all that? Like, what did that look like for you? Was it just like the straight up, what was your version of the diet mentality before you entered into like the stressless eating philosophies?
Well, there's a lot of judgments I held towards like what was good, what was bad. And I think that's where the trap that I was in, that, you know, um, this was bad and this was good. And um, this is, the restriction mentality was definitely where things were supposed to be good. If I restricted, then that was good. So yeah, that's where I lived in that. And like it's just the opposite of where food lives. Food is abundance. Food is life. And so like the opposite of that is like, if I eat this, then I'm bad, because that food is also bad. And I just had a lot of judgment. And even when I would approach a diet, it had to be a certain kind of diet, because it had to be one that was restricting on carbs. It had to be a certain diet that was restricting on these sort of, all of these parameters I believed in,
Yeah.
that really weren't serving anything, because
Right.
at the end of the day, it's just food. And there is always a place for any kind of food. You're just gonna have to like figure out where it fits in your body, like what is the goal of this food for your body. And so it was a change in mentality of good and bad to, it's just food. It's just
Yeah,
food. Like
absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
having a banana is
totally.
full of sugar and carbs. Bananas aren't bad for you. It's just
Yeah.
these interesting conversations I would have
Yeah,
over and over again about what is good and bad.
totally. Yeah. And here's the thing, like the paradigm here, it's again, this might be a far stretch for a lot of the women that are watching this right now, because it's like, no, bananas have like lots of sugar in them, they're bad for me. And it's just like, and they're hearing this from like nutritionists and like fitness
Mhm.
experts and all this. And so, um, anyways, it's just like, it is learning a new language. And again, it felt like a far stretch for me too, because all I learned growing up was like there's good, bad, healthy, unhealthy, like should foods and shouldn't foods and all that. And it's just like, and here's what we know too, like living in that, like the number one cause of binge eating is restrictive eating, and creating that like that just restriction punishment mindset. So it's not coincidental that like most women struggle with the binge cycle when they're adhering to that mentality. And so again, unless you heal that mentality, you'll bring that with you into the next one and the next one, which is what happened for you too. Like you've done every diet, you've done like intense workout programs, you've even done therapy, right? Like what was different about this approach for you than what, like why was this different than anything that you've tried before?
We touched on that. The difference between this and therapy is that when you go to therapy, you get to see your therapist once a week. If you're lucky, twice a week, maybe once a month. And then for me, I always had the right answers. Like I always had read the right books, and I had
Yeah.
Brene Brown in my back pocket. I had
Mm.
all the right nutrition in my head. Like I knew all the things, and I had practiced them. Um, but it still wasn't coming together for me in that realm, because there's still a few elements missing. And then I actually joined a really amazing gym, and it was high intensity interval training, and I got really strong, and it was a great community, and they had these nutrition programs, but I just never really felt my true honest best there, because it was so performance driven. It was so high stress. It was so high intensity. And I don't know, like there was these elements that were just always missing from whatever was going on with those two things. And so, yeah, it's neither of those. But it's both. I don't know. Does it make sense? It's a great combination of what I needed to change in my life to actually have real growth in
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah, and I think you're probably speaking the language to a lot of women here. Like, ladies, we all have the go-to like food program and fitness program that works, right? But it goes into this category of like, first of all, like if you can't sustain it forever, like that's not a sustainable like approach. But also like if you don't address the mindset and the brain and the wiring in your brain and the self-talk and all of that, like you're gonna bring those relationships that you have with food in your body into that. But also it's like, when we talked about this before, like a lot of women come to me, one of the most common things I hear is like, I know what to do, but I can't get myself to do it. And I always like, and we had this conversation on the first call too, because you were like, I lovingly challenged you. I was like, it sounds like you got all the information, like, but you're lacking the transformation, the implementation. But also like, I say this with anyone I talk to, like, it's, what if you actually don't know what to do? Like, what to do is like, I learned the weight loss mentality. I learned that if you eat less, move more, but it's like, that's a broken model. Like we don't know what to do. And so part of it is like, we have to wake up to this idea that like, I actually don't know what I don't know. Like these solution is in my blind spot. It is not in a diet. It's not in an exercise program. Um, but I know a big part of that for you was like a little bit of skepticism. Like, crap, am I going to be the one person that this doesn't work for? Because I've been so deeply entrenched in this, like my entire life, like these old habits die hard. You were calling yourself a sugar addict, so could you speak to that about like how you also thought like you knew what to do, but couldn't get yourself to do it, but it really wasn't like you didn't know what to do. Like you needed to learn a new paradigm.
Yeah, I read, like I told you, I read all the books. I knew all the things that you were saying. I just didn't know how to apply it into my life. Like a lot of things, a lot of the tools you give us are just it's wisdom. Like it's stuff that's been around forever. If you don't know how to implement something, you just don't know how to implement it. And so I was skeptical, because I was like, I've done this, or at least in my head, I was like, I've done this. I know this route. I've done this thing, and nothing has changed. So what is going to be different about this one is that it wasn't just a one elemental program where it's just the food or just the exercise or just the therapy. It was all of it in intensity. To be honest, it was pretty intense because you had to look at yourself and go, I know these things, but I just didn't know how to put it together. I mean, it really made me like compassionate towards like smokers. You know, there's not one smoker out there who doesn't know that what they're doing is bad for them, right? And yet they're still on that same like get up and have a cigarette. And it's like we're no different when it comes to nutrition. It's like we all know, but like how do we implement it? How do we make the real change to grow um in that mindset of, because, and I don't know, even today sometimes I catch myself like with an ad going by and it's like, this is the before and after. I'm like, oh wow, that looks really neat. And then I'm like, oh wait a minute, I know that's just another cycle that poor woman has to be on. You know, you just when you know there's a different knowing. And and it's
Absolutely.
hard. It's a trust. I had to trust you. And you don't learn to trust until you actually put your foot forward and start trusting.
Yeah.
And so trusting yourself was the biggest part of this whole
Yeah,
program.
absolutely. Yeah, and just to speak to the whole intensity factor, like I used to do a lot of this work with women, like drawn out over the course of a year, you know, and I was just like, first of all, you can't like when we're talking about changing like deeply ingrained patterns of thinking after decades, you know, like you have to hit it with laser focus. And the brain isn't able to laser focus like that for that long. And so part of it is like, yeah, you need intensity, but also like you need lots of support. Like I know you were saying like therapy wasn't enough because it was once a week, you know, but like you can't solve an emotional problem with like intellect alone. Like you need that support. You need somebody to take you through your own blind spots and all that. So what was that like? Because I know you were also very like, not like I can do this on my own, but part of it was like, yeah, like, it's like, I'm so smart. Why can't I figure this out on my own? Like, what was that surrender process like to just like put your trust in getting the help that you needed?
Oh, um, the surrender part was, I met you probably at my deepest darkness. And so I think that for me, there was only a way to go up. Like trusting you was like, it was truly like you put you said it was a surrender. It was a surrender to how can I get off this wagon by myself wasn't working. Um, you know, or getting off the crazy train or the roller coaster or whatever you feel like the diet process has done for your life. I had to surrender to you, and I had to listen to you like, Jenna, that's not really true, so many times that I had to. And so for making that leap to trusting you was that you were so you had my story already written down, that you had the before already written down. I was like, how does she know me? How is this like so universal that she can tell me my story right now? And she already is. And you called me out on my story, and it was humble pie, to be honest. But I feel like you you convinced me in that no matter what, uh, it was really about just committing to myself. And you told me, you said some words that I had to hear, that I needed to hear, that it was it's a lifelong like journey from here on forward. Like, why wouldn't you want to start the journey in the right place? And so it was a complete surrender to you.
To you, to
Yeah,
your
and to
future
myself.
self.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to myself. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So why do you think this approach was so much more like, why was it successful when all the diets and the exercise programs and therapy and all that like just weren't? Like, why was this so successful for you?
Because deep down, I knew that this was not just a 6 month or 30-day, whole whole food, whatever it's called, whatever that it's called. I don't even know what the diets are called anymore.
Yeah. Isn't that fun to not even know what the diets are anymore? It's just like so irrelevant.
Yeah, Whole30. That's what I was thinking. It was a
Yeah.
Whole30. That it really was like, it's not, it's not a short-term game, like a short game. It's a long game. And I knew that I needed to make steps in my life. If I'm putting myself back, I needed to make steps in my life now, because I had a 10-year-old daughter who was watching me destroy myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 10-year-old daughter who I didn't want to see her struggle with the same things I struggled at that age. And I knew that my life would be shortened if I kept on the cycle. And I wanted to get off that train. I wanted to stop the things I knew weren't working for me. And I didn't even know weren't working for me until we had that conversation of like, how many diets have you been on? Enough to know that they don't work, and enough to know that it needs to be more than that.
Yeah. And that's like, maybe you can speak to this. Like, this is one of the things that comes up all the time with the women I talk to, because, and it was the reason I know to talk about this first is because it was one of my biggest struggles too, is like shifting from this idea where it's like a right now weight loss conversation because you're feeling like such crap. All you want to do is get away from the pain of feeling overweight and not having your clothes fit and all that. So like we're so pulled gravitationally towards that short-term weight loss conversation, rather than, I straight up said to you, I was like, this is not about getting you to your ideal weight in 12 weeks. This is about learning the foundations that are going to serve you for the rest of your life so you can be free forever. So 20, 30, 40 years from now, you can look back and be like, God, that was like, I laugh that I had that struggle with food, because just who I am right now, it's so effortless. I don't have to think about it. It's just who I am rather than something I'm having to do. So, this idea of, switching from the paradigm of like, no, this isn't about weight loss right now. This is about healing. This is about freedom. This is about like a lifelong, like my forever self. So again, like that's not an easy shift to make when you're so indoctrinated in that weight loss mentality. So what was it like for you, and why did that really just pave the way for your success?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, you said it all, that there's this constant struggle with the short-term goals that would never be. And so we've talked about this before, where my family members don't live for very long. My dad died at 42. My mom's mom died at 52, and my mom's still surprised that she's 58. She's like, how did I make it this far? And for me, it's more than just buying a Weight Watchers package for a couple months and like seeing how that works. It's really about just like radically committing to myself and I know some women will be like, well, that's just so selfish, but like the truth is I am more than just myself. Like I have this ability to affect everyone else around me. So investing in myself is actually investing in everyone around me at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, it's a long-term game. It's a constant, I mean, it's just because it really has to saturate everything, because when we come to stress, it's funny how just a little noise sometimes in a room can make you just like, whoop, there's your like threshold for, and like you start to see all of those little things that start to add up. And for me, that was my biggest struggle with any kind of diet or anything, is that the stress would send me to the edge where my willpower was completely gone. And so I knew I needed to try something that was more of a healing of my relationship with my body and with my self-talk and with, just everything, everything. I needed to heal it. I needed to heal the way I talk to myself, because the way I talk to myself was the same way I talk to everyone else.
Yeah. So what was it that made you know it was worth it to finally invest in yourself in this long-term forever solution rather than just go spend money on the next diet or the next diet or the next diet? Like, what was it like? And was it, it's probably unconscious to some degree, but what was it that made you feel worthy of actually investing in yourself to not see this, like, you know, it's not about like getting in your skinny jeans fast or losing a bunch of weight really quickly. It was like these shifts that like are almost invisible, but like everyone around you can notice, but it's not something like you know what I mean? It was a totally different paradigm. So what was it that like, because obviously when you're in a dark place, like we don't feel worthy of that. So what was it for you in deep down inside that you like knew like, okay, I'm at least I'm worthy of it, or I'm ready to feel worthy of it, and to actually invest in a solution rather than a short-term fix?
You know, I had to have some long conversations with my husband, who I think was also ready for me to feel worthy of something like this too. Um, and I felt worthy of it because getting off the cycle I was on, um, is just truly just priceless. Like I actually could see the end of this. I was actually able to picture like what would my life look like in freedom of food? What would my life look like if I stopped hating myself? And that
Yeah.
those two questions, um
Yeah.
were the powerful questions I needed, because any diet program doesn't say, hey, you're also going to stop hating yourself. They just don't
Right.
do that. They might say something like that, but any woman who's been on multiple diets and has gone down to like that lowest weight you could get to knows that you're still hating yourself. And so getting to that point where I could actually love myself where I am,
Mm.
in my bedroom, talking to Leanne, um, and where, I didn't really have much time to get myself prepared. My hair would look curly like yours too, but
Mm.
seriously, I'm okay with that because it is me showing up for this world. And I just don't, I wasn't showing up before. I would have been so stressed out before this call. I would have been, just like, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
in such a different place right now. It's hard for me to even step back there, because it's just, this investment for me those two questions, like, what if, what if you could? What if you could? And so I believed in you, and I learned to believe in myself.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And so also like so this is kind of recent, you know, just a few months ago, we went a little rogue because you came to me and you were like, hey, listen, you know, I just went to my doctor and I'm pre-diabetic. Like all the stuff that's been happening to me, the diet mentality, it finally caught up to me. And he just told me I'm pre-diabetic, like basically on the borderline of developing type 2 diabetes. And you also had enough intuition at that point in time to know, you're like, but he basically told me, he or she, I don't remember, told me like, go low carb, keto, stuff like that to fix this. And it feels like it's going against everything I'm learning in stressless eating. Like, can you help me? And so we actually went kind of rogue. I was like, okay, listen, like, I know, first of all, disclaimer, I'm not a medical doctor. Everything I say, like, do not take it as gospel, but this is what I would do. I literally said to you, I was like, if my mom came to me and was like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what I would tell her to do, you know? And so we went a little bit rogue, and like you took action, you took ownership of it, and you reversed diabetes. Like you are not pre-diabetic anymore. It's gone. It happened pretty quickly. What was your experience like that? First of all, when you found out, what clicked in your head that you knew there was a way to heal this using freedom, using permission, using choice? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it felt pretty, it felt like a kick in the gut.
Yeah.
I'm a rebellious person. You hear all the things like, don't eat this or else it'll lead to that. I'm like, try me. Try me. I'm gonna eat all of the sugar. All of my numbers have always been normal. I'm good. And so then it finally caught up to me, and that my lifestyle, actually does affect your life. It's amazing how that works. And so, um, I at that point I was like, okay, it's a sign. I can do this. and I did the things I needed to do. I put together a whole bunch of stuff I needed to do. It was holistic. It wasn't just about what I was putting in my mouth, but what I was putting into everything that was going on around me. And I I tackled that beast, and I'm no longer pre-diabetic. I was able to change my A1C in a matter of 3 months, which was, it was only about maybe 2 ticks into pre-diabetic, but I'm like, that's 2 ticks too much. That's 2 ticks closer to where I don't ever want to be. And so I kicked myself up off the ground and was like, I'm gonna do the thing. And we did. We went rogue. We did things that, um, even in my own beliefs, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
I don't
the
know if
word
this will
low
work.
carb was not involved. Like we did
Yeah.
not cut your carbs, which is what a
Yeah.
lot of people are talking to. We
Yeah.
went upstream and took this nervous system holistic approach, and it's
Mhm.
mental, it's physical, it's emotional, you know? And so, and in 3 months, like that's pretty unheard of to shift it that quickly. But that's what happens when you hit it at the root, because your root was not just a sugar thing. It was a whole internal environment thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It was it was the stress, and I had to do the emotional work. I had to do all of the things to get myself to being, um because I did some research, because I found the things. I did the things,
Totally.
and I was like, wow, it's pretty amazing what stress will do to your body, like not just food. And so, being a
Yeah.
teacher and being a mom and all those things, it's not exactly a stressless lifestyle. It comes with that extra like need to be diligent about how you're managing your stress. And it was a big wake up call, and I'm really glad I had it. Like, I can look back now and go, thank you, because it gave me the strength to change what I needed to change. It gave me the motivation and the intention to actually do the healthy things that I avoided for so long, because I just didn't want to be a beginner again. And it gave me my power back to see that I have more to do. I have the ability to change anything I need to change. And not like a scary change, but more of like, I can rise up to this challenge, and I can be the person I need to be in these moments. So
Amazing.
yeah, I'm still grateful. I'm still grateful for that doctor's call, because yeah, it's been a good
Amazing.
journey. It's been a good journey
Absolutely.
beyond.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it just shows that like when you take radical ownership of who you're being, like physical, mental, and emotional health, because again, it's just like like literally for most people, it's like go like, and here's the thing. Yes, can you reverse diabetes with like low carb and low glycemic and all that? I'm sure. Absolutely. Like people are doing it all the time. But what it does is it confines you to a prison of that. Like imagine if you felt a prisoner to low carb and no sugar ever, to feel like you had to keep your diabetes at bay. Like that's again like another prison that again leads to like binging and all that. So what we talk about in trustless eating is like, I don't want it to be either or. Like I don't want you to have to make a choice. I want you to get to have both, so you are just a testament to getting. But again, it wouldn't have been possible if you hadn't come to me and been like, Leanne, like I'm choosing to make this mean something positive and powerful. And I'm ready to just take radical ownership. And that's when we were able to just like get your new recipe together, so to speak, which was, yeah, we did talk about like how food comes in and stuff like that, but it was more like a mind brain solution, so
Yeah, and
super
I
excited for
I
you.
found a sustainable way to still eat my sugar. I love my sugar.
Yep.
It's still
So do
it's
I.
it's still great, and it's still
Absolutely.
fantastic to have, but like um I don't have the same relationship as I did before, and
Yeah.
it's fine. It's all good. It's all good now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we close out, I'd love to just ask, like, what experience, like, what feedback are you getting, like, from your husband and your kids now, like, that they get this version of you? Like, what is, I know it's been a big transformation for all of you because they, like, have you back now. Like, what's that been like for you? What feedback are you getting?
Oh, my husband is just in the first couple weeks, he was like, "Wow." Like he noticed. And of course, um, I hit some bottoms, and you're like, it's not working, nothing's changing. He's like, what?
Totally.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's changed so much for us and for you. And he's he's just over the moon with because he married a very confident woman who was so like in love with life, and I lost that over the years, just through just life in general. And so he got me back, and my kids get to have a mom who's excited to be their mom again. And the word is also, there's just vitality. There's just more life in me and more freedom. And it's so more freedom for me means more freedom for them. And it's so beautiful. It's so, I'm just grateful every day that I found this place, because I know my family is so much better. Like all of my relationships just feel so much healthier, and I'm just not stepping on myself as much as I used to. And it really affects, like, I can't say it enough, like, you thinking about the way you think about yourself, it bleeds into how you are also talking to others. And so I was so mean to myself.
Mm.
And I would actually say that I'm a natural encourager. Like, so for me to have that go away, it really was a lack of my whole self. And so I feel like I'm really truly myself.
Mm.
Um,
Love that.
like more myself than I ever have been. And I'm so excited about discovering who I am all the time, because I'm finding things to be excited about, enamored with. And so it's been so amazing, this whole journey.
I love it. Yeah, we talk about this idea of like going home to yourself. It really is just like going home to yourself, because what keeps us from that is all the judgment and the resent and really like the self-hate and self-loathing. And like you used the word one time, self-abuse. And it's like we don't realize it because we think that like, restricting our food and working out like a mad woman is healthy because we're being told that that's what we're supposed to do. And that's the part that we think we know what to do but can't get ourselves to do it. But it's like oftentimes that's a form of self-abuse. And like when you get rid of all of that and all the shame and the guilt and the self-loathing, it's like you just get to go home to who you really are. And then we get to just like draw it out as well, because that's a process. But so powerful. And just to kind of close out, like obviously you've been there, like what it's like when you feel hopeless and like you think that your only option is to like get on the next diet bandwagon or join a gym or join a 6-week challenge or go on Pinterest or Instagram or whatever it is. Like, what would you say to any woman who's listening right now and the temptation she has where, losing a bunch of weight really quickly is super sexy, versus this idea of like taking the time and the energy to go heal this for good. And that way you have it forever. It doesn't sound as sexy because it's not this like, lose 30 pounds in 30 seconds promise. But like, so anybody who's sitting on the fence that is thinking about going to the next diet, like what advice would you give to her? What would you say to a woman versus like taking that more like approach of just like learning the language one time and then you get to have it forever? Like, what would you say to anyone who's listening right now, who's in the shoes that you were in?
That shiny little jewel that is like the new diet that will work. It reminds me of a story I learned about a monkey that you can trap just by putting something shiny at the bottom of a jar. And so he's going to be so hooked on that shiny little like thing at the bottom of the jar that his hand can't get it out because his hand is so tightly wrapped around in a fist. And so you can actually capture him just like that. And it's because we want that instant gratification. Like we want just that bullet, just that thing. And that letting go part of it is scary. Like, what's going to happen to me if I'm not on a diet? What's going to, who am I going to be if I let go of that jewel, that next, like, it's worked for these people, it's worked for those people. Like, why can't I? And so I would say, like, let go of the jewel and see what happens, because freedom is so much more sweet than holding on to something with your fists so tight that you're basically fighting. You're fighting yourself, you're fighting everything around you, and you're miserable. And so I would say let go and try something that seems crazy, because it takes something crazy to change what you are holding on to. Because I would go back into this program like 2 decades ago. I would go back to this program and do it. I would have everyone in my life do it, because having freedom in everything, like it really isn't everything, has just made my life so much sweeter. And I don't hate myself anymore, and I don't hate, like, I don't hate food, and I'm just so, I wake up and I'm like, I have my things I get done, and I am ready for the day to live it and enjoy it, and enjoy food again. And so anyway, we can all end up being like that monkey, just trapping ourselves in that next shiny thing, but you got to let it go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, God, so first of all, just such a powerful testimony, but also like, I think we can all relate of like, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that we're going to have these decades of patterns and we can just eradicate them and shift into freedom. And it's like, yeah, like nobody is that far gone when you have the map. Nobody is that far gone when you are focused on like healing it, not just putting a short-term band-aid on it. And like when you choose it and you have the map and the path and the strategy and the support, like it doesn't have to take so long. You don't have to go sit on a therapist couch for years and discuss like daddy issues. Like it doesn't have to be so hard, right? But you do have to draw that line in the sand where you say, I am not going to be that little monkey. The next shiny object is not going to fix a bigger problem. You know, it's like you hear like the kind of the analogy or metaphor of like, if your check engine light is on, you can like go inside the dash and you can unplug that light. So the indicator is no longer on, but you'll never actually address what's going on in the engine. And it's like, yeah, at some point in time, ladies, I do invite you to get to the point where you say, I'm done just like turning off the indicator light and bandaging over the symptoms, and I'm ready to heal this. And it doesn't have to take so long. You're not far gone. I promise you, if I'm the poster child for like sugar addiction, emotional eating, self-loathing, like hating on myself, coming down from the depths of despair, Jenna, you are too. Like you're not crazy. You're not alone. It's just, you learned what we learned, which is this diet mentality, this cycle of self-loathing and self-hate and good, bad, right, wrong, should, shouldn't. And it is a prison, and you don't have to live there. So thank you so much for just being so open and honest and vulnerable and sharing with this community what this like was like for you. And ladies, just so you see, like, it's not always butterflies and roses. Like she had some roadblocks. She got hit in the jugular, so to speak, like with a diabetes diagnosis, like in the middle of her journey. Like ladies, circumstances are always going to be coming. We're always going to be having challenges, but when you can connect to the breadcrumbs to go back to who you really are, so that you're showing up as a version of yourself that you're proud of, you can handle anything. And again, that's never going to be found in a diet, in an exercise program. It's a head, it's a heart, it's a mind, a brain, a self-image thing. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. Any last words you want to share with the community before we sign off?
No, I just want to echo what you say, is that um, I think you just mentioned how it's getting off the cycle. It's finding yourself again, and I'm over the moon for it. I would shout it from the rooftops if everyone would hear. And I know not everyone feels ready all the time for this sort of thing, and that's going to be okay too, but
Totally.
just it's always here. It's always here. And it's just so good. I can't even say in words what it has meant to have you in my life, Leanne, and what you have done for everything around me, and everything in me. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm just bursting with gratitude that I have a new lease on life, and that it's not because I found the perfect diet, and it's not because I found the perfect exercise. It's because I have found what um, I know, I just found all the things, right? There's just too many things to say. I found the thing. I found myself, and so it doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's a lot of work to it, but it's the best work you're ever going to do. And it's going to be the most powerful work because this is the rest of your life. Rest of your life starts today, and you have the choice always, always, always to either, just stay in the past or move forward. And so I'm so proud of everyone who does jump onto this, because it takes some faith. Having faith in yourself, I think, is one of the hardest things to have faith in.
100%.
I could have a lot of faith in my car, it's going to get me from point A to point B, but sometimes I don't have faith in myself. And so I'm just so grateful that I've had Leanne. And anyway, I have no words. It's just so emotional. Like, I feel like I'm like effervescent inside. But I wish I could just invite everybody who's ever had that struggle of I just need to find that one thing, that one diet, and then I'll be happy. Oh, I just want them to come here. I just want them to come and see that there's more. There's always more. So thank you so much for all you do.
Beautiful testament. And it really is just a testament to how you showed up. Like, you did the work. This is your creation. Like, you went home to yourself. You connected to the essence of who you really are. And it's been so beautiful to watch. And thank you for inviting me in. And thanks for sharing this with everybody that's listening, because, there's people that are right now where you were, and they just, they've lost hope. And I get it. I've been there too, like feeling that hopelessness and feeling like so out of control. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be that way. So thanks for being vulnerable and just sharing your truths and the light and the dark. And appreciate you being here on your Saturday.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye, ladies.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you heard and you're interested in breaking out of your own food, body, and diet prison, here's what I want you to do next. Head on over to stresslesseating.com. That's stresslesseating.com, and sign up to watch the Stressless Eating webinar, where I'll walk you through the exact 5-step game plan my female clients use to conquer emotional eating, self-sabotage, and finally heal themselves from the restrictive all-or-nothing diet mentality for good, but without obsessing or spending years in therapy to address it. I've laid it all out for you there in 5 easy steps. Remember, healing your relationship with food and your body does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance to make it happen, and we've helped clients all over the world take back their power from the food and find true and lasting freedom, while enjoying life and warm chocolate chip cookies along the way. To see if we can help you do the same, head on over to stresslesseating.com. I'm Leanne Ellington, and I'll see you next time.